अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः.
Namaskar, this is Tulja Bhavani. I welcome you all to my online class in law, especially to the wing of business law. So dear viewers, today we are going to study without any PowerPoint presentation. Today I have brought the PowerPoint presentation to you, but due to lack of internet connection and due to heavy rainfall, I am not able to upload my PPTs. So today we are going to have a traditional class as we used to have in our early days, where we used to understand the topic by seeing the expressions, gestures of our teacher along with the explanation. So I welcome you all to my online class 010. Today we are going to learn about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration. So before we move towards our today's class, let us have a small recap of what we have learned in our previous class. So in our previous class, we have learned about acceptance, importance of acceptance, and revocation of acceptance. Dear viewers, acceptance means giving free willingness or consent to the offerer. So whenever we are giving our acceptance, we have to give our acceptance without any force, either physical or mental. There should not be any force which is physical or which is mental. So acceptance, once if the offer meets with the acceptance, it becomes an agreement. So when agreement meets with the concept of enforceability, when the concept of enforceability is added in the agreement, it gives rise to contract. Right. So acceptance means it is the free willingness which is given by the offeree to the offerer. It means the offeree is willing to be bound by the terms of the offer. In simple language, offer means giving approval to the offer as well as the offerer. Right. Importance of acceptance. So the importance of acceptance was very well said by a Briton jurist, Sir William Anson. Sir William Anson, he has compared offer and acceptance with gunpowder and a lighted stick of matchbox. He compared offer with the gunpowder and he compared acceptance with that of the lighted stick of matchbox. So our sir, what he has done means he made a comparison and he said, imagine if the stick of the matchbox is lighted and if it is thrown on the gunpowder, you cannot imagine the blast or the destruction which takes place. And once if the stick is lighted and it is thrown on the gunpowder, no one can stop and you cannot take back the gunpowder back. You cannot take the gunpowder back. So no one can stop the destruction. Likewise, once if acceptance is given, then no one on the surface of the earth can stop from the formation of the contract. And in case of commercial contract, once if it is formed, there gets the element of enforceability added. And once if enforceability added, dear viewers, if either of the party, if the offerer and offeree fails to perform their contractual obligation, then the aggrieved party has a right to knock the door of the court, to sue, to file a case against the other party and see that the contractual obligation is fulfilled. and if it is not fulfilled, then the aggrieved party has a right to claim for the damages. Right, so it was said by Sir William Anson. So now let us come to revocation of acceptance. It's all a recap of what we have learned yesterday. So recap I'm talking about. So revocation of an acceptance. Dear viewers, there are two views about revocation of an acceptance. First, we'll take the English view, or the view as per the English law. So as per the English law, once acceptance is given, it means it is given. You cannot revocate that acceptance at any cost. Right, so as per Indian law, once is if acceptance is given, that acceptance can be revoked by using the fastest mode of communication. So if you have given your acceptance through a letter, you can revocate your acceptance by following the fastest mode of communication, which can reach the offerer before your postcard reaches. So if you have sent your acceptance through a postcard, you can send your revocation before this postcard reaches the offerer, either through a telegram or through a communication, either through a telegram or through a telephone. So right, this was about revocation of an acceptance. So an acceptance can be revoked as per Indian law. It can be revoked at any time before the information of acceptance reaches the ear of the offerer. Now let us enter in our today's topic, consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration. So dear viewers, as I said, I have the PowerPoints with me, but due to lack of internet, I am not uploading them. And whatever video I am uploading, I am uploading, or I have uploaded, that is based on the mobile recording. So now let us know about consideration. So consideration means something in return. Consideration means something in return, and in Latin language, it is called as quid pro quo. Quid pro quo means something in return. So when the parties are entering into contract, both the parties should receive something in return. If they are not receiving something in return, then it is not a valid contract. Why it is not a valid contract means, out of the 11 essential elements what we have studied earlier, out of those 11 essential elements, one element was lawful consideration or consideration. No consideration, no contract. So when both the parties to the contract are making offer and acceptance to each other, you should see, the parties should see that both of them receive something from each other. If there is no concept of something from each other, then it is not a valid contract. It remains as only agreement. I told you there are 5 kinds of agreements, right? First one is social agreement, domestic agreement, religious agreement, moral agreement, and the fifth one was commercial agreement. So dear viewers, out of those 5 agreements, 4 agreements remain as agreements only. They do not form contract, and the fifth one, that is commercial agreement, will only form the contract. Why like that means, in these 4 kinds of agreements, social, domestic, religious and moral agreements, in the initial stages of their formation, or there is a presumption that whenever these agreements are formed, they are not formed with the intention of creating legal relationship. They are not formed with the intention of creating legal relationship. So when there is no legal relationship, there is no enforceability. When there is no enforceability, if either of the party fails to perform their obligation, then the aggrieved party cannot file any suit. Right. So in case of commercial agreements, the concept of legal obligation is present. So when there is legal obligation, there is enforceability. When there is enforceability, the aggrieved party can file a case and claim the damages, or can ask the other party to perform their part of obligation. Let me give you one example in case of consideration. Let me take one example. What is that example means? Let us assume that Mr. Sunil Naidu is selling his mobile phone costing so and so amount, costing, let us assume, costing 10,000 to his friend Rohit Rajan. So here consideration for Sunil Naidu is 10,000 rupees and consideration for Rohit Rajan is the mobile phone. Both the parties are receiving something from each other, and that something should have value in the eyes of law. Anything should have value in the eyes of law. That is called as consideration. If there is no value of that thing, then it is not called as consideration. I love my son, but does this love has any value in the eyes of law? No, it is natural to shower our love on our children, and this love and affection cannot be measured in terms of monetary and cannot be measured monetarily. So when they cannot be measured monetarily, they do not find any place either in the books of accounts or in the view of the court. So right now what I want to say is about consideration. So consideration is something in return. It is the price which is paid to enter into the contract by both the parties. So dear viewers, there is also a very famous maxim means rule. There is also a very famous maxim in Latin that is called as, if it is PPT, I can show you. Here there is no PPT, so I have to look down and tell you. So it is ex nudo pacto non oritur action. I repeat, ex nudo pacto non oritur action. It means what? Out of nude fact, it means out of nude fact, no cause of action arises. It means out of nude fact, no cause of action arises. In simple terms, it means a contract without consideration becomes void. A contract without consideration becomes void. Example, what I want to say is, there are certain agreements which are made without consideration. I told you that there are gratuitous voluntary services which are done by the people out of natural love and affection towards their family people, or towards their friend, towards their friends, then towards their family members, towards their spiritual institutions, etc., which lack in enforceability, which do not have the concept of legal relationship. So when there is no legal relationship, there is no enforceability. When there is no enforceability, the aggrieved party cannot file any case and cannot claim the damages, or cannot make the other party to perform their contractual obligation. So if anything is done out of natural love and affection, do not have value in the court of law. So to make it valuable in the court of law, whatever agreement is made between those parties should be in the form of a written deed. If it is in the form of a written deed, then it has value in the eyes of law. Let us assume I want to transfer my property to my child. So when I want to transfer my property to my child, I have to prepare a gift deed and I have to give it to my son, so that in future my son does not face any problem. Right. Now today we are going to learn about, we have learned about the concept of consideration. Now we are going to learn about the definition of consideration. Dear viewers, to explain you about the definition, again have to look into the book. If there was PPT, I would have displayed you. So please listen to me very carefully because it is one of the most important definition. So section 2D of the Indian Contract Act 1872 defines consideration as, listen, I'll explain each and every word of this definition. When, at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing or does or abstains from doing or promises to do or to abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called as consideration for promise. Dear viewers, in simple language, to explain this definition, what I want to say is, when at the desire of the promiser means the person who proposes, the person who gives an offer is called as an offerer, proposer, promiser and acceptee. So when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person means what? When promiser has given his goods to the promisee, that is to the acceptee. So what the acceptee is doing? So the acceptee is acting. The promisee or any other person has done. So when I am giving you my proposal, when at my desire I am asking you something, I am asking your approval, you are acting either positively or you are acting negatively. Positively means what? I want to sell you my laptop. Will you buy my laptop? For 50,000 rupees. You have accepted. I have given you the laptop at my desire. I will decide you in which form you have to give me the consideration. Either you have to give me the consideration in the form of cash, or in exchange of my laptop you have to give me the mobile phone. Here this consideration, whatever consideration is there, that has to be decided as per the promiser only. Promisee has no right to decide the consideration. In what form the promiser wants the consideration, in that form the promisee has to give the consideration. You are not supposed to give consideration as per your choice, right? So when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person has done or abstain from doing, does or abstains from doing. So this is the definition what he is saying. So whatever he wants, I am doing that. So he asked me, will you buy my laptop for 50,000 rupees? It is a positive offer. So I am giving him 50,000 rupees. Then again I gave you an example. Let us assume that I am myself Tulja Bhavani. So I have given 50,000 rupees to my friend Mr. Ram, and I said Mr. Ram that Ram, you have to give me my money back after 1 year. So 1 year passed, Ram did not give me the money. So we are in good contact with each other. Again 1 month is over. 1 year, 1 month is over. I asked my friend, hey Ram, when will you give me my amount? Ram said, I will give you. So like this, Ram did not give me the amount for a period of 2 years. Then after waiting for 2 years, I told to Ram, see Ram, I have given you amount and the duration to repay my hand loan was 1 year. You have not repaid it past 2 years. So I am going to file a case against you. So what Ram is doing? Ram is saying that, see Tulja, I am going to give you your 1 lakh rupee, and apart from 1 lakh rupee, how much amount I said, I don't remember whether it is 50 or 1 lakh. So whatever it may be, actual amount, along with actual amount, some amount extra. So let us assume I have given 1 lakh. So my friend said, I will give you your 1 lakh rupee. Apart from 1 lakh, I will give you 20,000 more provided if you don't lodge any complaint against me. So what is this? It is abstained from doing something. My friend Ram is stopping me from filing a complaint against him. This is a negative offer. So at the desire of the promiser, the promisee has done, or abstained from doing anything means the promisee has done. Done means what? 50,000 he has given me the cash, taken my laptop. Abstained from doing. Abstained from doing means what? He has to file a case. I have to file a case against my friend, but he has not filed a case because I have not filed a case because he is telling that he will give me 20,000 extra amount. So this consideration can be related to past, or it can relate to present, or it can even relate to future. So dear viewers, there are two different opinions on consideration. According to English law, past consideration is no consideration. Whatever you have done, now forget it. Now don't take it into account. So you have to take into account only the present consideration and the future consideration. But as per Indian law, considerations are of three types: past consideration, present consideration, and future consideration. This was the definition of consideration. Now we are going to learn about the essential elements of a valid contract. Dear viewers, I have the PowerPoint slides with me, but due to the lack of internet, I am just uploading it, and immediately after this 010 you will find my slides in 011 lecture, right? So, essential elements of a valid contract. The following conditions. What are the essential elements of a valid consideration? So, in order to make our consideration valid, there are few conditions to be satisfied. What are those conditions? So, dear viewers, according to me, there are 6 kinds of conditions. N number of conditions are given in different types books which are repeated, so I have not repeated. So there are 6 kinds of essential elements which have to be satisfied in order to make a contract in order to make a consideration valid. So the first one is, it must always move at the desire of the promiser. Dear viewers, as I said that consideration should always move at the desire of the promiser, but not at the interest of the third party. So whatever is the consideration, I am the person, I am taking lot of risk, I am the person who has first proposed you, who has given you the offer. When I am giving you the offer, it is me who has to decide in which form I am expecting my consideration. So consideration should move by the promiser, but it should not move at the interest of the third party. Some third person should not decide. I have to decide. I means the promiser has to decide, but not the third party. If any third party decides the form of consideration, then this will not come into the definition of consideration which we have studied in section 2D of the Indian Contract Act 1872. So whatever words I am saying, you will understand it very perfectly if we take the example of one case law. So dear viewers, there is one very famous case law called as Durga Prasad versus Baldev. Point to be noted, it is one of the most important case law known as Durga Prasad versus Baldev, ILR 1880. This case has taken place. So Durga Prasad versus Baldev. So here the plaintiff is Durga Prasad and the defendant is Baldev. So what happens here in this case is, the plaintiff is a contractor. The plaintiff is a contractor and he constructs a few shops in a very big market on the saying of the district collector. So the district collector tells him to construct some shops in the market. So when he is constructing the shops in the market, one person comes to him named Mr. Baldev. Baldev says that, see, even my shop is allotted in this market, so I want you to construct my shop in the way I want. I want certain modifications. All shops are having similar features, means all sizes same, inside the design is same. So I want to change the interior of my shop, so you better change the interior of my shop, for which I am going to pay you the extra amount. Who has said this? Mr. Baldev. The defendant has told these words to our plaintiff, Durga Prasad. So what happened? Durga Prasad, he constructed the shop, but he did not make any modifications to the shop. So he has made little modifications to the shop. So in spite of making little modification, our Baldev did not pay him the amount. When Baldev did not pay the amount, Durga Prasad has filed a case against him. When he filed a case against him, it was said that the court held that the plaintiff did not construct the shop as the plaintiff did not completely construct the shop as per the desire of the promisee, as per the desire of Mr. Baldev. Moreover, here the contractor is a third party. Here the original offerer was the district collector, and the offeree was our Baldev, and constructor was the middleman. He was the third party. So any offer has to move at the desire of the officer, collector, but not at the desire of the offeree. So he made the modification. Did the contractor, did the district collector ask him to make such modification? So what happened? Our district collector did not pass the bill. So when district collector did not pass the bill, this person, he was not having money, and later he approached Baldev saying that I have made the modification as per your said words. Little modifications what I can do I have made. So whatever modifications I have made, you have to give me the price. So here the court said that the consideration has not moved from the promisor, therefore the plaintiff cannot recover any amount. Right. So this was the case law here. Now, dear viewers, subscriptions or donations for religious purpose. So here what I want to say is, I told you already, religious institutions come under the religious agreements, which are made not with the intention of creating legal relationship. When there is no legal relationship, there is no question of enforcement. But there are two different views which are given here. What those views are means, if the promisor makes any promise saying that he is going to donate or she is going to donate some amount to that trust or religious institution for the development or for the construction or something, and later if they don't implement their obligation, and if the promisee files a case, then the court will see that based upon the promise which is made by the promisor, has the promisee incurred any liability? If no liability is incurred, then the court is dismissed, because I made a promise that I will give. You didn't start the work. You did not incur any expenditure. When you did not incur any expenditure, I am not liable to pay you anything. The court even said that based on the promise, if the religious institution, if the religious trust starts their work and incurs some liability, and if the promisor fails to pay the amount, then the offeree has a right to claim the amount to the extent of expenditure incurred. Right. So here we have two very famous case laws. that is Abdul Aziz versus Masoom Ali, 1914. Abdul Aziz versus Masoom Ali. Here the plaintiff is Abdul Aziz and the defendant is Masoom Ali. So Abdul Aziz is the secretary of a mosque. So when he is a secretary of a mosque, what happens is every day our Masoom Ali comes to offer namaz in the mosque. So when he comes to offer his namaz, he tells to the secretary of the mosque that I am going to donate 500 rupees for reconstruction of this mosque. So after making this promise, suddenly our Masoom Ali disappeared without giving any amount. So when Masoom Ali disappeared, our Abdul Aziz, he has filed a case. He searched for him. If he searched for him, and if he did not find him anywhere, he filed a case. So when he filed a case, he demanded for the donation amount of 500 rupees. The court has given judgment saying that yes, he made a promise. To call it consideration, there must be something which both the parties should receive from each other. Here Masoom Ali did not receive anything from the mosque. And second thing is, based on whatever promise he has made, has the mosque committee started any reconstruction work? If it has started, how much is the amount incurred? So Abdul Aziz said that we have not started any construction work. So the court clearly said, when you have not started any construction work, then Mr. Masoom Ali is not liable to pay even a single paisa. So this court was dismissed and the judgment has come in favor of Mr. Masoom Ali. Next landmark judgment, which was again given in case of Kedarnath versus Gauri Muhammad. Dear viewers, India is a country of unity in diversity. So here what happens is, our Gauri Muhammad, he makes a promise to the temple trust secretary saying that I am going to give few amount for reconstruction of the temple, for repair of the temple. So after making this promise, our Gauri Muhammad disappears like our earlier case, and the temple trust search for him, and the temple's trust, based on the promise which was made by Gauri Muhammad, has started the work of reconstruction and repair. When they have started the work of reconstruction and repair, they have incurred some liability. So what they have done, they searched for Gauri Muhammad. When they did not find Gauri Muhammad, they have gone to the court and filed a case against him. So the judge asked, yes, consideration means something in return. Here Gauri Muhammad is not receiving anything from the temple, right? So when he is not receiving anything, this is one point to be considered. And the second point is, Mr. Kedarnath, can you tell the court whether you have incurred any expenditure based on the promise which was made by Gauri Muhammad? So Kedarnath said that, sir, I have incurred so and so amount of expenditure based on the promise which was made by Gauri Muhammad. So the court given an order in favor of, has given the judgment in favor of Kedarnath, saying that whatever expenditure Mr. Kedarnath has incurred based upon your promise, Mr. Gauri Muhammad, you have to refund that amount to him. Right, so this was the judgment. Now let us move towards the second point of essential elements of a valid contract. So second essential elements is, it may also move from the promisee or any other person privity of consideration. So whatever consideration is there, that has to move from the promisor, and sometimes it can also move from the promisee. So as per English law, consideration has to move only from the promisor, As per English law, consideration has to move only from the promisor, whereas as per Indian law, consideration first it has to move from the promisor. If not from the promisor, then from the promisee. So it means that contract was made at the interest. So on behalf of the promisee, any other third party. So it means that some contract was made at the interest of the third party. So the third party can sue the promisor for the breach of contract. So what happens in simple terms, even a stranger to contract can sue the contract. So to support my words, I'll take example of one case law. So before taking the example of case law, let us know what is privity of contract. Privity of contract, the doctrine of privity of contract says that only those persons who are parties to the contract can enforce the contract, and no third party can enforce the contract. A contract was made between me and Mr. Ram. So either I or Mr. Ram can enforce the contract. In case I or Mr. Ram, either of us, fails to perform our contractual obligation, but no third party can enforce the contract. So let us assume that I made a contract in order to benefit my child. I told to Mr. Ram, hey Ram, if anything happens to me in future, you have to pay so and so amount to my child because you and me are business partners. So a contract was made between me and Mr. Ram. If anything happens to me tomorrow, if I am not alive, then my child cannot enforce the contract if Mr. Ram fails to perform his legal obligation. Whereas as per Indian law, even a third party can enforce the contract, because the root cause of forming a contract here was my child. My child was the beneficiary of the contract. Because of my child, I have entered the contract. So when I am not there, when I am in my absence, if Mr. Ram is not performing his legal obligation, then my child can enforce the contract. So in order to support my words, I'll give you another case law which is very, 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 very important. It is Chinnaya versus Ramaya, ILR 1881, very, very famous case. Chinnaya versus Ramaya. So Chinnaya is also a female, Ramaya is also a female. So Chinnaya and Ramaya, the relationship between these two ladies is that of auntie and niece. So let us take example of mine only. So let us assume that I am an old lady, and apart from me I have my own sister, and she is also old. So I have my daughter. So what I have done, I am a Karodpati. So what I have done, I am taking care of my sister, and me and my sister are living together, and I have a only daughter who is staying separately. So I called on a very fine day to my daughter. Let us assume now coronavirus is going on. So with the fear of coronavirus, because I'm already, let us assume I'm a woman of 70 years. So when I'm 70 years, this coronavirus is affecting age-old people. So with the fear of death, what happened? I called my sister, I called my daughter-in-law in the evening. In the evening, I called my daughter and I said that, dear daughter, you know very well that I have no obligation other than taking care of my sister. So after me leaving this world, I request you to take care of my sister, and you please give my sister a annuity of 650 rupees per year. Annuity means it will be given per year only. So per 1 year you give to my daughter you give to my sister 650 rupees. So I told her. So when I told my daughter, she accepted very fast, at very first hearing of this offer, she accepted and she said, Mom, you please don't worry, I'll take care of your sister as if it is you. So I have transferred my entire property to my daughter, and after a month or two, I have expired. So when I have expired, what my daughter has done, she has given 1 year annuity to my sister, second year annuity also she gave. Later she stopped giving the annuity to my sister. Now my sister has no one in this world other than I. But now even I am not there in this world. So what my sister will do? She is very old. She is not having any source of income. She is also not keeping well sometimes. So now it is very difficult for her to lead the life. She called my daughter Ramaya and she said, Ramaya, see, your mother has given you her entire property and she requested you to take care of me. But now your mother is no more and you are not properly taking care of me. You are not even giving me the amount which your mother has asked you to give me, that is 650 rupees. I request you to give me the amount. But Ramaya said, why should I give you the amount? There is no contract between you and me. I made a contract with my mother, but now my mother is no more. Why should I give you? And when there is a contract, there is one essential element that no consideration, no contract. I have not received any consideration from you. You are receiving money from me, but I am not receiving any money from you. When I am not receiving anything from you, why should I pay you? She told to her aunt. So her aunt requested her, but Ramaya did not listen. So what she has done, she has filed a case in Madras High Court. When she filed a case, and she kept the entire story before the honorable judge. So the judge listened to both Ramaya and the version of Chinnaya. So Ramaya said, see, judge, see, my lord, there was a contract made between me and my mother, and now my mother is no more. When my mother is no more, why should I implement my contractual obligation? My aunt is a third party, and a third party to contract cannot sue. A third party to contract cannot sue. The judge has listened her version, and the judgment was given saying that whatever you have said, Miss Ramaya, is totally correct. A stranger to contract cannot sue. We agree with your version. A stranger to contract cannot sue, but a stranger to consideration can sue. Your auntie Chinnaya is the root cause of making this contract. It is because of your auntie your mother has transferred her entire property to you. So it is your duty to pay the amount to your aunt. And though your mother is no more, your aunt has a right to enforce the contract, and she has enforced the contract. Now the honorable court orders you to pay her the amount which you have not paid, and the amount hereafter you have to pay on every year on equal time basis. So this was the judgment given. Now let us move towards the third essential element of a valid contract. The third essential element of a valid contract is it must be real, not illusory. Illusory means, which is not possible, which is imagination. So here, dear viewers, whatever is the consideration, that consideration should be real and it should be possible, but not illusory or unsubstantial. Let me give you one example. A husband and wife, they love to have a long drive, so they were going in their four wheeler. So when they were going in their four wheeler, he was driving at a speed of 120 kilometers per hour. So when he was driving by listening to the music, etc., 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 so what happened? A very fast vehicle has come and it has hit the vehicle, and when it has hit, on the spot her husband has died and wife was very much alive and very much safe. This is the destination. This is the destiny. This is the destiny. Man proposes, God disposes, and if anything happens against our will, it is the will of God, and we have nothing to do other than accepting it. So what happens? Her husband died. When he died, the dead body was the body was sent for post-mortem, and when it has come, all were weeping at her home. So wife was also weeping. Suddenly a tantric comes and he says to his wife, I can put life in the dead body of your husband provided if you give me 1 crore rupee. Here consideration is there in the form of money. But what kind of consideration it is? It is a unreal consideration. He is telling her those things which are not possible at all. Can you imagine any person leaving the body? Means after death, have you ever seen any person coming back? I have not seen. Once the life has gone, once the soul has left the human body, it is not possible that the soul will come back. No person has that ability to put back that soul in human body other than God. It is only God who has a right to give us the birth and to take back our life. It is God who gives us the life and who takes back our life. We don't have a right to even take back our life. It is even a crime to commit a suicide under section 309 of CRPC, which is punishable. So never commit such kind of things. Problems are common for everyone. They come, they go. And when they come, believe me or not, they teach us the lesson. And if any problem comes in our life, it's a turning point. It's a turning point. Remember that your life is going to change. So what happens? This lady is weeping and the tantric comes and he says, I'm going to put life in the dead body of your husband. So this kind of promise is illusionary. It is not real. So consideration should be real. It should not be illusory. Now, let us move towards our fourth essential element of a valid contract. It means it need not be adequate. Dear viewers, consideration need not be adequate. Adequate means what? Let us assume that this is the watch. It is a fast track watch and the price of this watch in those days was some 3,700, something like that. So what I have done, I have taken out this watch and I have given to my friend Bhavna. I have given to my friend Bhavna. The price of this watch is 3,700. Let us assume I have given this watch to her just for 500 rupees. So consideration, see, I am giving her 3,000 worth of item for 500 rupees. So consideration need not be adequate. 3,700 I am giving you. You should also give me 3,700. That is not the rule. My friend has to give me something which has value in the eyes of law, and this can be either adequate or inadequate. So when I am giving this watch to my friend for just 500 rupees, the court will inquire whether there was any pressure made on the promiser, that is me, either physical or mental. Has she gone mad or what? Why will a person give something which is more costlier in a very less price? It may be because of natural love and affection, or it may be due to force or mental pressure. So the court wants to know what is the reason behind selling a costly item in a very lesser amount. So consideration need not be adequate. Anything can be given as consideration which has value in the eyes of law. Then the fifth point is it may relate to past, present, or future. I told you, dear viewers, that consideration may be past, it may be present, or it may be future. I even told you that as per English law, past consideration is no consideration, only present and future considerations are recorded. Whereas as per Indian law, three considerations are there: past, present, and future. Now the last feature of our essential elements of a valid contract is it must not be illegal, immoral, or opposed to public policy. So whatever is the consideration, that should be a legal consideration, that should be a moral consideration, that should not be opposed by the public policy. I gave you the example saying that a house was given for rent to a lady who is a prostitute, and a house was given to the Naxalites for storing the weapons. See, these are opposed, these are all illegal, these are all unlawful, and opposed to public policy. I gave you one example that let us assume that there is one person who is working as a collector in some office. So some person comes to him saying that, sir, you are the collector of this office, everything is in your hand, I give you 1 lakh rupee, please put some job to my son. If that collector takes the amount and puts the job, this kind of act is opposed to public policy, which should not be done. So dear viewers, these were the essential elements of a valid consideration. Today in our 010 class, we have learned about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.